In a tenant's world and a landlord's world, when it comes to repairs, emergency repairs, who's going to pay and how do you get this stuff? It's often this stuff done. It's often a really grey area. Stay tuned. We're going to update you on what's right and what's wrong.
Good morning, Mark. Episode 442. Good morning.
Good morning.
Emergency repairs in real estate. What are my rights? What do I need to know? I'm a tenant. I'm a landlord. This is quite an interesting one because typically your emergency repairs will always happen outside of business hours, or usually that's the case. So is the first response, call someone at whatever time it is, call the property manager, and that is part of their job, but is there a better way to go about things than just emergency call someone at 2 a.m. and say, I've got a problem? Can I fix these things on my own?
Yes. And I guess, practically with most real estate agencies, if they're running 9 to 5, you've got a hell of a lot of hours outside of before 9 o'clock and after 5 o'clock where stuff can go wrong. And often it's like, oh my God, what do I do? Who do I call? You're lost.
Yeah.
What would you do?
We have our emergency hotline that is for all things real estate. Doesn't matter, as long as it's something to do with Novak properties. We'll have someone on the end of that line who's going to help you out. But as a tenant and as a landlord, you need to know what you're entitled to, what you need to do, who's responsible for what. What falls under the responsibility of the tenant, Mark? What sort of repairs would it be? Is it because self-inflicted? It's the self-inflicted.
Well, that's right. And I think as a tenant, there's a duty to minimise loss. There is it's a duty that it's look, if you can rush down and get the mains, if it's water damage coming through a pipe, run down, turn that mains off. But even stuff like a lot of people just have you don't get taught at school where is the water main.
Yeah.
Every house has a water main. Every unit block has the water main. It's actually a good thing to make yourself familiar with. And you may not be that way. You may not be that sort of, build a background or care factor 0. But definitely living in all properties, you should know where your water main is. That's the main tap that turns off the whole building. And you should know where your power board is inside your unit or your house, so you can just rush and turn that off in the event of an emergency or a fire.
Yeah. Another interesting one is with electrical. Often it's your accessories that are tripping the electrics in the first place. The property managers will typically run you through a little procedure of turning everything off, testing different switches on and off, and then you can work out and isolate if it's an accessory, like it's sometimes just a toaster or something stupid, or there is a more underlying issue. People don't know this, and you're right, you don't get taught these things in school, which more and more apparently it's becoming quite crazy that these things aren't being taught to us. I think Mark's having a bit of difficulty there. Do you catch me there, Mark?
I would say again.
I was just saying it's funny how you said there you don't get taught this stuff in school, but these are life skills that are so important, and it goes down. There's so many things that we say that school doesn't teach you in terms of life skills, but these are fundamentals in terms of being able to live and move forward in life and just have a general understanding of the things around you.
Absolutely. And that's a good one that you mentioned with testing of circuits. So not a lot of people know that, if you've got a hair straightener and which I know you do, James, and that is a dud, it's old or it's broken, and that continues to turn your whole power off in your house, naturally you'd go, I'm going to ring the agent. But you've got to be a little bit careful because you are going to be held responsible for that. So there is also there is a testing situation that a real estate agent will take you through to say, look, try this, try that, pull, and we actually start layering and start getting the tenant to go through all of the property and pull out everything out of their PowerPoints, and then keep going back and turning the power on to see if it continues to fail. Now, if you decide to call your own electrician or your own plumber, when I gave you that example just then, that could be on you. Particularly, I think the best advice I could give is if it can wait, let it wait, because it does save everyone involved costs. But if it can't, it can't. So there's essential services, power, and essential and water. And I think if some essential services often can't wait, a tenant's got to be able to have a shower in a property. So that stuff, starts to become an emergency situation, which you then can run the gauntlet of calling your own plumber or your own electrician. Another one, often your agent will provide in the lease the preferred plumber for the landlord and the preferred plumber for the electrician inside that lease. They're the main two emergency guys.
But you'll have other people. I was just thinking about that as well. You'll have someone like a locksmith will probably be on there. You'll have all sorts of different services. Am I right in saying that?
Say it again.
A lot like things like a locksmith as well.
Yeah, a lockout's a good one. Do you want to explain that? That's an interesting one.
Well, we get it all the time, and I'm sure all agencies would, and it's the typical 2 a.m. sort of story. I've locked myself out. Can you call a locksmith out for me, or can you come and open the door for me? At that time, and you've done it, you were the cause of the problem in this one. If you've locked yourself out, unfortunately, you have to cop it. If you can stay somewhere overnight and save yourself the fees and come and borrow the key from the agency the next day, or if you need to get back in, I guess it's a very situational thing that would happen. And unfortunately, people don't seem to understand that.
Yeah.
So these things need to be understood from the get-go as well, as to what I'm entitled to and what I have to do if I make a mistake like that. And
lockout's an interesting one. My advice would be on lockout. Go to Bunnings, grab a coded lockbox. The coded lockbox has like a hook on it, a lock hook, and you can actually go through and lock your key in the garden over a tap, or you can go and lock your key somewhere inconspicuous. You can lock it to the tow bar of your car. You can lock it to if something that's fixed, that's generally not going to move near your property. Now, and out of the way, so no one knows it's there, sort of thing, and we'll sort of grind it off or try to open it and stuff. But it's going to be easier to break in your house than to break into a lockbox. But the reason I say that is that lockbox is going to travel with you probably the rest of your life if you buy a good one. And if you ever get locked out, that trusty little thing's always going to be bailing out of trouble between yourself, your kids, your partner. You're always going to be locking yourself out. So I think it's very, very important for people to do that, because you look at the cost of a locksmith out of business hours, they can be charging upwards of $200 or $300. They'll charge you $200 to $300. If your agency's open and you sleep at a friend's place overnight, then we're going to give it to you for free, but we're going to need your ID. And that's hard. Your ID is locked in the house. Yeah.
It goes to show, though, you don't think about these things being 2 or 3 steps ahead, but when you sign a new lease, when you get the new keys to your home, you make sure you've got enough sets of keys. If you it goes without saying almost, but these are the little things that people don't seem to do, which I think would make a lot of difference and a lot of impact on their time and the property spent. We've got a couple of people on this morning, Mark. Sorry,
we
go on.
do. We're probably a little bit different because we're managing, 3,000 tenants and 3,000 landlords, and I guess our systems are probably, or our availability is a lot, or probably a lot better, or maybe even towards the top end of the best. But bear in mind, most agencies are running a couple hundred properties, so you've sort of got to, as a tenant, you may just not be able to contact anyone after hours. They may not have a service. Ours, if you dial the office, you'll or online chat, a property manager you'll get to speak with, or a salesperson you'll get to speak with. But you sort of you've got to run that caution of I guess you've got to be practical as a tenant. You've got to have a good think of what else can be done. Adjoining neighbours are great. You'll always find someone who will be nice and handy, and the people in the lease. What have we got? What comments we got this morning?
So,
good morning, Emma. Good morning, Luke, Neil.
It amazes me how people do not know about the water mains. Yeah, such a basic little thing that everyone
find
should know.
your water mains. Find your water mains in your property. It's all I can assure you, you'll need it one day.
Yeah. Neil from the UK, from what I can tell, have these problems in the UK as well. An emergency call last night from a tenant with the electrics tripping. Turns out she had an extra fridge plugged into the lounge in an extension lead, which was causing it.
So with electrical tripping, what's changed? The hardest thing is when it's just something that's gotten old and failed, but the most common thing is something's changed. So someone's put an extension cord in, they put the power board with 4-to-1, four plugs into one, and it's a shit one, or it gets wet. What's changed is the big thing with identifying electricity once.
Was that a question for me? In terms of...
No.
Oh, gotcha. I thought you were. Luke said prevention, repair it. And, good landlords do that as well. But there's a line, isn't there, where if you're causing the problems, then you're going to have to be the one to fix it. But, for the most part, the landlords do almost everything that's asked of them based on the situation.
In an emergency, I think, look, last night you had a perfect example. Someone's car park flooded and their car got wet. That was an example where. Well, another thing people don't know, by law, in Australia, in a unit block, we must have a board which must have the strata details on it by law. So every single unit block in Australia will have in the foyer, it'll have a notice board. On the notice board, it'll have your bylaws advertised, and it'll tell you who your strata manager is. Now, that's actually a really good one. I don't know how we came around to this, but you've also got to identify, is it my landlord's problem or is it my strata's problem? So it doesn't necessarily sit with the landlord. When you're in a house, generally, absolutely, it sits with your landlord. When you're in a unit block, generally, if it's the pipe, this is shady. If it's the pipe work inwards, it's going to be strata. So if you've clogged the drain, then that's going to be you or the owner. Whereas if it is pipe work that's an issue, electrical from the wall inwards, like backwards, I should say, that's going to be strata. So strata, I don't know. I don't think strata companies have the best availability, but they survive well with after-hours calls. But they've all have an after-hours number, much like agents will. They'll have someone that you can contact. But be careful, because you will get, if it is your responsibility, you will have to pay as a tenant, even as an owner of the property, if it's not strata's responsibility. As an owner, I guess you don't mind, it's yours anyway. But as a tenant, you don't want to be slapped with the bill because you've called the wrong person.
Yeah, very true. All right. Well, I think that's a wrap, Mark.
That's
Luke,
a big topic,
thank
hey?
you.
I didn't realise.
Yeah, well, I think we could get into that even further. I mean, there's a lot. It's one that's not deep, but you can go down a rabbit hole with that. As soon as you go down to whose responsibilities is everything.
Yeah. There was a comment there about not buying shit heaters. Often
Yeah,
non-quality appliances is a way. Quality appliance is a good way for prevention.
yeah,
That's a good call. That's a good call.
yeah, yeah. And also, what we even said this the other day, Mark, but you buy cheap, you buy twice, and they're the ones that always cause the problems.
Yeah.
Anyway, have you
Or
got
three
anything else,
times all
Mark?
four.
I think we're good.
Sun's out, rain stop. Have a beautiful day, and hopefully COVID go away.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's actually that is the other thing that's worth noting, isn't it? That we're back into COVID restrictions. I wonder if we're going to have any sanctions imposed back onto real estate in this morning, maybe. We'll soon
Mate,
see.
I hope that guy. I hope this guy who spread it all initially got his barbecue equipment, made 5 barbecue stores.
He must have had a
Jesus
big party
Christ!
this weekend, which I hope he's not having anymore.
I hope he got his barbecue stuff. He's happy with that. That's no good luck,
Yeah.
everyone, with COVID. Be careful. Mask up. I was in the servo last night and everyone had a mask. So stay safe.
Stay safe. That's it. All right. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
See you, legend. Cheers, bud. Bye.